As we all prepare to ring in the new year of 2019, I am pleased to welcome back to the show the final guest of 2018, Mr. Charles Walton. Charles, hello.
Hey, how you doing, Jason?
I'm
It's
doing
good.
well.
Yeah, we've done a few interviews and they've all gone really well, and it's really good
Yeah.
to hear.
Well, it's great to see you again, Charles. You know, the interesting thing is, in the past, the interviews that you and I have done have focused mostly on the censorship of your extremely popular YouTube channel. I should say your former YouTube
Right,
channel,
right.
because you were one of the first guys to be completely deplatformed, and we spoke
That's
about
correct.
that, of course. People can still see you on Facebook Live. That's become your primary platform since being totally removed from YouTube, but we've never gotten before today into the meat of the content that you cover that may in fact have been the cause of your removal from YouTube. You are a UFO expert and very well known within the UFO community, isn't that right?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely done my research, and I'm very intrigued and mesmerized. It's fascinating stuff to indulge in. That and also, of course, paranormal events. But it's just awesome because now, last night for the first time, I found out that you are fascinated by this type stuff too, and I didn't know that previously because you have a lot of prominent guests that you interview on your show, and you get into a lot of really deep stuff. But now that I realize that you're fascinated with stuff too, we can probably do more interviews with this and indulge more in this. And this is going to bring, even another group of audience to your channel, which is awesome. A lot of people, I mean, people that like this type of stuff, they're very dedicated to doing research and trying to find out more. And so it's awesome now that you're going to be a part of this. I just think that's great.
Yeah, and I'm really happy to be here. I mean, my basic approach to Crowdsource the Truth is that there are some pretty wild and fantastic things that, we certainly don't know about until we learn about them. And I'm open to reviewing evidence of any type of phenomenon, and hopefully we can learn some more about it. In the past, we've spoken about, on Crowdsource the Truth, we've spoken about the Fermi paradox, which is sort of a little axiom put forward by Enrico Fermi, the guy who developed the particle collider, or is considered the father of the particle collider. He was a physicist, of course, and the Fermi paradox describes what he saw as a contradiction between the lack of evidence of extraterrestrial life and the extremely high probability of it existing due to the essentially infinite nature of the universe. And of course, the invention of the particle collider, according to Fermi himself, one of his intended goals was to open a man-made singularity to communicate with extraterrestrials. Charles, have you seen any evidence that that has been achieved?
Not any evidence that is achieved, but yeah, I agree. I mean, we're talking about billions of stars. I mean, and I talked about this with you last night. If you put this in perspective, let's say you go to beach, well, maybe a beach in Florida somewhere, and you look out at this beach and it just goes for miles and miles, right? You pick up one tiny little grain of sand on that beach and you look at it in your hand, and then you compare that to these billions of sand particles all over the beach. That's how tiny Earth is. Now, you look at that and then you say, okay, this is all that exists out there. This one little planet right here called Earth, and there's nothing else out there. Really? Okay,
Yeah.
so that puts it in perspective. That's the odds. It's a mathematical thing. And so the people that are experts on this, astronomers, things like that, they realize that the odds of us being that one little tiny grain of sand compared to the universe for all these other billions of stars out in the universe above us is just impossible. It has to be. There's life out there, and we already know it, and we're going to talk about that today.
Right, and you focused your research primarily on evidence and people who are presenting firsthand accounts of actual alien encounters, sightings, UFO abductions, these types of things. You're getting pretty loaded up with friends on Facebook, so if people want to communicate with you and if they want to share their experiences, you've recently started a Twitter account. People can follow you on Twitter. I'm posting it right here. You are at _Charles Walton _, probably quite a few Charles Waltons out there, and hopefully we can help boost your Twitter following. I think your removal from YouTube is just a reminder that we need to be using all of these social media channels. I was initially prompted to contact you because I had been removed from YouTube as well. Thankfully, I was able to regain my status on YouTube, and people are watching us now on YouTube and Periscope and Facebook Live and Patreon and all these other places. When we first spoke, Charles, you told me that YouTube was your primary source of income. What have you been able to do since that removal to keep yourself going?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I'd grown. I mean, this channel was growing astronomically. It really was. At one point, about a year before, I think I had around 30,000 subscribers. And then when I indulged into a lot of things, including investigative work of the Las Vegas shooting, it just skyrocketed. It went to over 50,000 subscribers and over 71 million views. Wow. And I was on YouTube for over 12 years. And so when they started targeting it, I was like one of the first people that they targeted. They took my channel down. I was hoping it would come back up. They targeted a lot of us out there. A lot of people that are involved in the Las Vegas shooting are the ones they targeted for some reason, because there was a lot of stuff that went on involving that they didn't want people to know about. And, if you talk to anybody about that, they'll say something doesn't add up about this. The information they gave us and all that, it didn't make any sense at all. There was a lot of mystery involved in that. And so that's where it begun. And they completely took my channel down after I, did the investigative work in regards to that, and it never came back up. Now, I say YouTube did it, Google, YouTube, whatever, but I apologize if they weren't the reason why it came down. It could involve a shadow government. That's a possibility. Because I definitely believe there is a shadow government out there. They could be involved. It could even be the Men in Black. Who knows what? So if it's not you, YouTube, I apologize. But I don't know. All I know is that channel went down, and there's a lot of people that didn't want it to go down. And a lot of those people followed me to Facebook, and they're very dedicated. I love these people. They're very dedicated to what I do.
Right. So people can just search for Charles Walton on Facebook, and you're going live on Facebook Live. So let's talk a bit about some UFO information. A lot of people who watch Crowdsource the Truth are very interested in knowing about the Podfather, his emails that were released in WikiLeaks, and of course there were these, so much of what this guy was emailing about is weird and unexplained. But there was this story about John Podesta being interested in UFOs. This is coming from NBC News. So, I mean, was this just a casual interest? Do you know much about John Podesta's interest in UFOs?
Of course, he supported Hillary Clinton. His stance was that if Hillary Clinton, became elected as president of the United States, that he was going to make sure that disclosure took place in regards to UFOs and aliens. Now, I guess I'm not just going to come out and say who I supported during that election, because I don't want to piss anybody off. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton, but but this would have been a reason to do so. I mean, I think he was very sincere about wanting to expose, for disclosure to take place. He seemed to have some inside knowledge and information on UFOs and aliens. And we all want this information, to take place. We all want to know the truth about everything. We're tired of hearing these stupid stories about weather balloons. I mean, come on, can you come up with something better than that? Weather balloons. Every time a UFO crashes, it's a weather balloon. This is ridiculous. Huh. And but that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to get involved with Hillary when she became the president, and he wanted to make sure that disclosure took place.
Wow, and it looks like he's appeared on an episode of Ancient Aliens dealing with...
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. Does the government hide information? Say
I
again?
like him. I like the guy.
You like John Podesta? Oh my God.
I like the part that he wants to. I like the part that he wants to have disclosure take place.
Oh.
I don't know. I'll admit I don't know a whole lot about him. But
He has been linked to allegations of child trafficking.
Okay, well, in that case, I don't like him.
Okay, so see, it's interesting
but see,
to know.
You know all that stuff.
Everybody's got their area of expertise, and if you're focused on UFOs, perhaps you're not looking at some of these other things. I mean, he's also putting aside any internet allegations. He's also basically acted as an agent of foreign governments without registering with FARA. He's the guy who said that Eric Braverman was the leaker of the DNC information, that he's not afraid of making an example of somebody. Braverman famously disappeared from public view for many months. The whole Seth Rich story came out of this, but we digress. We want to focus on UFOs, of course. And Charles, you've been pursuing this for years. You've been looking into this for years. You've brought to my attention, some of the better known cases, things like the Phoenix Lights. Talk to us a little bit about this, and then we'll get to what happened just the other day outside your town in Louisiana, as well as here in New York City.
Right. This is one of the most famous UFO cases right here, Phoenix Lights. Now, of course, I mentioned to it the other night, and you weren't aware of it because you don't indulge this stuff, as much. But now you're getting interested in it, and that is awesome. That's just so awesome because you're a brilliant guy. I followed you for a while now. And the Phoenix Lights took place back on March 13th, 1997. And this is a very interesting case because what happened with the Phoenix Lights is literally thousands and thousands of people witnessed this. And these were very similar to what apparently I saw the other night. These UFOs were like a mile wide or larger. I mean, this is huge. Can you imagine a mile wide? We all know, about how far a mile is. This is blocks and blocks. And these large UFOs appeared up over that city back then. And, very prominent people witnessed this. We had doctors, people of all walks of life, lawyers, you name it. And, they've given their stories. Even some of the politicians witnessed this. And they saw these huge UFOs come down. Some of them came like right down over these houses. I mean, you could almost reach up and touch these things. And they had these big circular glowing lights, very similar to what I saw the other night. And this was a huge event, one of the biggest events in the history of any type of UFO sightings. And thousands and thousands of people saw this. It was just an amazing event. And some of these were triangle type UFOs too. Which is the type that I've seen sometimes going out to place. I go out to this place called the Visions. It's about maybe 20 miles, I guess. About 20 miles from my house. And I've seen some amazing stuff out there. Some of these UFOs sometimes that appear out there. It's close to the Paradis, Louisiana area for those that want to know. Back on March 2nd of 2007, had an incredible encounter out there. And if you want to research it, that you can find that case, on MUFON under my name and all. But out there, some of these larger type UFOs appear. It's an isolated kind of dark road out there. There's pretty much nothing but pastures out there. And so that's where sometimes these craft appear out there. And it's just intriguing to witness these things up close. Because for those that have ever witnessed anything like this up close, it's just so captivating and mesmerizing. And if you witness an alien craft up close or even at somewhat of a close distance, you get this feeling of great knowledge. It captivates you. This great feeling of knowledge and intelligence, and it's actually a warm, comforting feeling. It's really amazing. Wow. And that's what these people witnessed in Phoenix with these Phoenix Lights. And I mean, we're talking about thousands of people saw this. So this was a big event.
And that's amazing. And what's interesting, obviously 1997, not that long ago, I don't remember hearing anything about that at all. And of course, this image that's presented here on Wikipedia from USA Today is a drawing of an object. So, I mean, it always seems like skeptics, of course, would say that it always seems like we're seeing drawings or we're seeing, artists' renditions. It's why do we not see a photograph of this?
Right. Now, they do have some video footage out there, and you can find some of it on YouTube of these craft, Of course, that's quite a few years ago. Now, people tend to have more, HD type footage, and that's what's good, too, because most everyone nowadays has a cell phone with high, HD footage, and so as the time passes, we're going to see even better footage, of these things, because people have this on their person when they're going places, and they can just grab it and start recording.
Right. Now, I know you're not related to this guy, but one of the most famous cases of an individual who alleges UFO alien abduction is the story of Travis Walton. Coincidentally, same last name as you, no family relationship that you're aware of. But you've communicated with Travis, and of course the film Fire in the Sky was about his abduction. That was an intense film. I remember seeing that. I guess I was in college or high school, but what can you tell us about the Travis Walton abduction?
Just a very interesting case. They were supposedly doing, logging type work, and this occurred in where? Snowflake, Arizona, I believe. And so anyway, this was back in the 70s, and he is on my friends list on Facebook. Awesome guy. I completely believe his story. I've followed it for a while now. We've communicated a few times. There was a point a few months ago when I had my YouTube channel, and we were going to try to meet up in Utah, but at the time I couldn't get out there. But he still wants to do this, and we're going to meet up, maybe do an interview if he wants to do that. We can share it with people if he wants to do that. But this is one of the most famous cases in the history of any alien UFO abduction. This man has integrity. He's telling the truth. Both him and everybody that was involved in this have taken numerous lie detector tests, and they've passed every single one of them. He was taken away for 5 days and brought aboard this alien craft. And, for those that don't, most everyone knows about this story, but for those that don't, I mean, you can watch the movie. There's a lot of Paranormal Witness has a great show on it. You can watch it on Paranormal Witness. And there's a new show, I think, called Fear the Woods, and they also have a very good show in regards to exactly what happened with that. But this is amazing. I mean, it really, really is, because this is a real event that took place. Now, the type craft that he was taken on to, some of it was quite scary and frightening to him. This is a very brave, strong man to survive something like this, come back and stay mentally focused and strong as he has. Is just absolutely incredible, because what he witnessed was incredibly traumatic. I mean, I remember, in the videos and the testimony, when he was in that craft, at times he was so frightened he had trouble breathing. He got up, he grabbed some object off of a table, he tried to defend himself. It's crazy what happened. It really is. And he gives an eyewitness account of all this, in his testimonial in some of these shows. It's just an amazing event that took place. It really is.
Yeah, and so that abduction allegedly took place in 1975. The film, of course, came out in 1993. Has anyone ever said, like, oh, this debunks Travis? I mean, no one's really ever done that, right?
No, absolutely not. Now, I believe the sheriff that was involved in this, I believe it was a sheriff. I could be wrong, but it's somebody in the police department. I think it was a police chief or sheriff or something. One of them, they still doubt that it happened. But that's the only person I know that doubts it. I mean, if you talk to any UFO expert or people that do this type of investigative work, everybody's going to say that they believe what it occurred. I have no doubt it occurred. This guy is telling the truth. There was one of the top people that investigate this, and everybody has said that this guy is telling the truth. The hypnosis, that's what I was trying to say. The guy that did the hypnosis test on him and all the other people involving this incident, and you can see that in Fear of the Woods and Paranormal Witness. The guy that did the that hypnosis work, he said, and he was one of the experts in the state of Arizona at the time, and he came out and said, with no doubt, these guys are telling the truth. He had no doubt in his mind and he was an expert at doing this for many years.
And Wikipedia, of course, tells us that skeptics consider the case to be a hoax, describing it as sensationalizing on the part of the media and a put-up job to make money. I mean, that's sort of general statements that could be said about anyone who has a tale like this.
Yep. Yeah, and people that doubt. Especially when it comes to something like this. It's always
absolutely. But the concept of UFOs, extraterrestrial life visiting us, it's obviously something that's fascinated people for a long, long time. Area 51 in New Mexico is famously, I mean, that whole town, when I was in New Mexico, everywhere you go, there's stuff about aliens landing there. I mean, you know, is that whole town crazy, or is this just a tourist thing, or where do they get this?
Yeah, that's the real deal there. But they also have another area, Area 52, which people are talking about now. But Area 51, you can look up Bob Lazar's information. He was responsible for he was an engineer responsible for trying to reverse engineer these craft here. Everything is testimony, and all that he says is true. There's another guy called Adair that you can look up. And it's interesting because there's a lot of information they don't want revealed there. When you start talking about this, they'll try to cut your feed. They'll try to slow you down, all this stuff. But it's like if you look up Adair, his testimonial, supposedly in Area 51, you know, that's solid ground. It's not like here in Louisiana where we have a lot of moisture and water under the ground. So they were able to basically dig under the ground 20 stories down. And I can tell you this, you know, the signs, if you go up to Area 51, they tell you that they'll use deadly force if you try to get in there without authorization. You got to have a very high security clearance to get into that area. And if you go and try to go into the area without that, they have the authority to shoot and kill you. That's how secretive this place is. And they've been trying to reverse engineer craft there for many years. Bob Lazar, Adair will tell you about this. You know, what they'll do is they'll bring these very knowledgeable, experienced engineers in there. And it's kind of ridiculous the way they do it, because what they'll do is they'll tell them, they'll say, well, look at this craft here. And they'll say, we want you to tell us how this works. And, you know, these guys aren't dumb. These are engineers. These are brilliant guys. So their first thought is, okay, so you're asking me how this engine or this craft work. Well, the engine, basically, a lot of times they'll just show them the engine, you know, the engine part of the alien crash UFO. And so they'll show them this, and they'll be like, tell me how this works. And so, I mean, these guys aren't stupid. So when they ask them that question, they're like, okay, so why are you asking me how this engine works if you're the one that designed it, you know? So right off, they know it's of alien origin, you know? And then they start looking at this, and so some of them, yes. So that's what they're trying to accomplish. They're trying to reverse engineer these craft, because obviously we know how the government is. It's very, you know, we're talking about national security. So if they can reverse engineer these craft, then it gives us air superiority over other countries. And what do we know every time a UFO crashed, including the Roswell incident? The government is very aggressive. They will go in. And in fact, there's reports of one in Mexico, and I need to do some research on that. I'm getting a lot of reports from people, and there is actually a document now on MUFON about this. I haven't had a chance. I've been so busy lately to research this. But supposedly, recently, a UFO crashed there in Juarez or whatever is Mexico or something. And so I want to find out more about that, because from what I'm being told, the U.S. government went over the border to try to get evidence and acquire all the evidence in regards to that craft. And that's what they do. They did the same thing in Roswell. When you have these crashes, they're very aggressive. They will cordon the area off. They'll keep anybody from going over there. And what they do is they bring in these big government vehicles, Army-type vehicles. They'll pick up all the evidence, and they'll take it off to a secure location like Area 51, Area 52, something like that. And they'll just tell everybody that a weather balloon crashed. Wow. And once they get all the evidence and they secure this area, then what can you do? You know, they'll bring in the helicopters and all this stuff. They'll keep people out of there, and that's just how aggressive they are towards acquiring this sophisticated technology. Because this technology that aliens have, as far as these craft go, are far superior to what we have, and that's what they're trying to accomplish.
Well, right, and I mean, of course, it's not just
it makes sense.
Yeah, it's not just a sinister plan on the part of the government. If there is some species around that's able to come to Earth with superior technology, it makes sense that we would want to understand that technology to be able to protect ourselves in the event that they may well be aggressive or otherwise want to do something that would result in our destruction. So let's move to the recent events that occurred. I want to start off, Charles, by showing everybody this video from a local CBS affiliate there in your town of Kenner, Louisiana. Right. This is very near your home, right? Tell us what we're looking at here.
Yeah, okay, for those that haven't seen this, this is mind-boggling right here. This is truly amazing. Okay, so a few days before this happened, there was a humming sound that was coming, that I was picking up, a humming, very deep type of vibrating humming sound that was penetrating into the house. And this happened 2 years prior on the exact same date, 2 years prior. And on that date, 2 years prior,
Sorry, Charles, give us one second. Let's let everybody just listen to the video.
yeah, okay, sure.
That's crazy.
That guy's right, and it's absolutely crazy, Charles.
Oh, yeah.
So you're saying 2 days prior, this was December 27th, just 4 days ago, and we saw, I want to clarify for people, the beams, the things that look like beams coming down from the sky. I do not believe those are actually vertical beams coming down from the sky. I think what they are is lens flares from the lens
Definitely.
on the camera.
Definitely the white ones. Now the amber color ones, not certain about, because on the some of the amber ones that look like going into the power lines, I'm not certain about. But I agree with you definitely on the white ones coming down. Absolutely, that one right there. That's definitely a lens flare coming from a light.
Right, and that's clear
sure
because obviously the illumination source is behind this Shell gas station, but this beam is in front of it, indicating that this optical anomaly is happening inside the lens of the camera. Now, that being said, we've been speaking to a lot of experts lately who have been talking about satellite-based weapons that can direct lasers or microwave-based energy beams to the Earth, and that could be used for things like starting the fires in California. How do we know that this is not something like that, Charles?
Yeah, of course it's a possibility, but from what I witnessed that night, I don't think that's what it is. I really don't. And there's people that believe that, and we do have all kind of sophisticated technology. I mean, we have these laser beams on a Navy ships down now that can shoot planes down. There's a lot of and of course then we have HARP. HARP in Alaska, and that can modify and interfere with weather and stuff like this. But this is something different right here. And my opinion on this, I'll tell you, I don't think this was intentional. I think what happened is with this huge craft that appeared over our city, I believe that it was some type of interference with this very powerful. See, because my house is only maybe about, I guess about 2 or 3 blocks away from this substation. And I think that's where that interference came in. And I think basically what was going on is this craft was trying to prevent from crashing, and that's what was going on. And that's why all this energy just went haywire. I mean, it's crazy. We're talking about, okay, so from where this started, the substation is on the corner for the locals, because the last few days picked up about 800 new people here on Facebook. And some of these people are local from this area, Metairie and Kenner. And for the locals that know where this is, this in a minute we'll also, I guess, show that video where I drive the length of it so we can show how far it is. But anyway, this is about a 2-mile area that this took place. It's hard to tell maybe from that video. Maybe we'll show that video again. I won't talk at all in a second. But this one right here. But yeah, so it's about a 2-mile area that this took place. Now this starts at the corner of Power Boulevard and West Esplanade for the locals here that know where that is. The substation right there is where it started apparently. And that night after it happened, I went to the corner of, I got my press ID badge. I went to the corner of West Esplanade and Power Boulevard. I talked to both Jefferson Parish Police and also a Kenner police officer. And they were amazed by what they saw. But basically what we witnessed when I went out there after this occurred is a substation. That substation was smoking. I mean, this thing was smoking. I couldn't believe it. I've never seen things like it in my life. Some of the telephone poles were on fire. I was told that every transformer in the city of Kenner blew, but I don't believe that. I think all the transformers from West Esplanade and Power Boulevard over to Williams Boulevard blew, and every transformer from Williams Boulevard to Veterans Highway blew. And that's a lot of transformers.
Yeah.
These telephone poles were on fire. The wires were on the ground. They were shredded. Everything was smoking. I mean, this looked like an alien invasion from what I saw and from the damage that occurred. And we talked about this a little while ago, Jason, and what's so bizarre about this. And in a few minutes, of course, we'll get into what happened in your area. You live in New York. And what two better cities in the world than New Orleans and New York? I mean, this is awesome. I mean, you've got the best city and I've got the best city. The two best cities. It just so happened this is where this stuff happened. But so, yeah, and the people of New York and New Orleans, I mean, we love these people, down-to-earth, wonderful people. But anyway, yeah, so getting back to the what happened here, what's so bizarre about this, which we can't understand, is, okay, so after this occurred, okay, so this occurred here. Oh, I also want to mention briefly that before this occurred, before I forget, my son and I were watching TV, and there was a very bright glowing beam of amber light that appeared in the backyard, in my backyard. I'm about a block from where this occurred, and it just lit up the whole backyard. And my son are like, what is this? We could not figure it out. We looked outside. There was no lightning. The only thing that was going is about maybe a 25-mile-an-hour gust. There was no lightning. Of course, there was no thunder. There was no planes. There was no helicopters, nothing. But this bright, glowing amber beam lit up the backyard. This was about 1:50 a.m. Now, an hour later, at 2:50 a.m. is where all this hell broke loose here with this electricity and all.
Yeah.
And so, but what I want to mention, too, is what we talked about that we can't understand is, which just not made any sense at all, is, and it happened in your area and my area both. Now, after all this happened and I talked to the police, I went to bed actually the sun was coming up when I went to bed. And so I went to bed, so I have no clue how they fixed all this stuff. But what doesn't make any sense at all is your area and my area both, they fixed this. I mean, the electricity was off for 7 hours here where I am. I thought the police were telling me that it probably was going to be off for 2 days. There was so much damage.
Yeah.
Now, I wake up at 10 in the morning. I think it was 10 in the morning next morning. I hear a beep and I wake up and the electricity is back on. I'm like, I'm happy. I'm awesome, ecstatic about it, but I'm like, there's no way. I couldn't believe it. I was pinching myself. And then the next day, I go and look, and everything's fixed, brand new, shining like nothing happened. How do you explain this? And then, of course, you're going to show some video in a few minutes where what happened in New York was just unbelievable. I mean, it's very similar to what happened here. The sky's lighting up a dynamic blue. It's glowing. We're talking about millions of videos, hundreds of videos of people seeing this. And this happened in New York just like it happened here for several minutes. And yet supposedly it was some electrical place there that burned or caught fire, but then you've got evidence that there's no damage to it. This is bizarre. How does this happen? I mean, the only thing I can figure is obviously, I think what happened here in Kenner is they didn't want this information and what happened here to go viral and for people to talk about it a lot. So I think what happened is they must have had a massive crew of people come in to fix that. I had somebody post on my page, a lady that says her husband's like one of these electrical wiremen, and he said there's no way they could fix all that in those few hours. So how do you explain this? But I was sleeping at the time, so I have no clue how they did it. They must have a lot of people in to do it.
It's a bizarre situation. And, you know, this is a video that I obtained from a YouTuber who goes by Action Kid 105. I've been in contact with Action Kid.
Right.
And, you know, he's in Queens here, very close to the Con Edison station. For people who aren't familiar with New York City, there's 5 boroughs: Manhattan, where I am right now, the Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island. So, you know, this is probably a good 30 minutes away from where I am right now. It's a fair distance away. And we're going to look at some video in a moment of a transformer that exploded in Manhattan itself in about 2006. And it basically is a pretty quick event. There's a bright flash, the thing explodes, and that's sort of it. But we're looking at, you know, 2+ minutes of the entire area being illuminated, and I want to let this continue playing so people can see.
Largest city in America.
Yeah, I want people to see what this neighborhood here in Astoria, this neighborhood here in Queens, this is Astoria. I want people to see how dark it goes so that you don't mistakenly think this is some you know, photographic sensitivity or, you know, a lot of street lights or something like that. This is lighting up the whole sky. And as people look around the internet, this is most prominent in the video. There we go. So it just went dark. I mean, that is a lot of light
Right.
for this thing
Oh,
to be
it is.
spilling all
It's
over the
massive.
place. And
That's massive.
it's amazing. And the thing that's also very curious, Charles, is that as you look and listen to some of these videos that people have been posting, particularly in New York, it's quite clear that the people on the street are justifiably afraid because something obviously dangerous is going on, and I don't think that anybody could really explain it. Now, this is going to be a broadcast exclusive here. This is a video, I don't know if I've even shared this with you, but this is a video that was taken by a friend of mine who basically just airdropped this to my phone. Had dinner with this person last night, and this was just taken out of a window on 19th Street in Manhattan. So you see the Empire State Building over there. That gives you an idea of the scope. I mean, this is a lot of light output from this 2+ minute incident. Lit up the whole entire city.
It did. And what does that?
Right. What does
A little
that?
electrical thing? I don't think so.
Now in New York City, we've got it's a pretty. It's not like New Orleans, but it's a pretty humid environment. You know, we've got water all around, and so there's mist in the sky. And obviously, New York is famous for light pollution. You can't really see any stars very easily. But there we go. It just goes dark again after that. So it's hard to pick out any details necessarily and determine what it is that's going on in that video, but. It gives people an idea. Now, the second video that I want to play from our friend Action Kid 105, the following day, he went and took a little walk over to the power plant. Actually, while I'm looking for that, why don't I play this video that you shot, Charles, and we'll have everybody listen to this as well. This is you driving to where the incident occurred.
Last Thursday morning, over a mile-wide UFO appeared over the Kenner area. That is a substation right there. You can see it right there, the substation. This is at the corner of West Esplanade and Power Boulevard. And in this video, I'm going to show you just how far these balls of fire and electricity literally just shot across these telephone poles on these wires. All these wires right here were on the ground, these telephone poles, some of them were on fire. And this is not normal. So at about 1:50 a.m., my son and I witnessed an amber glow in the backyard. And I live back this way. I live about 2 or 3 blocks back this way. So part of it. Now all this way you're seeing right here, all of this way, all of these poles, all these electrical wires had fireballs shooting down them. What you saw in that video, if you haven't seen the video, you can see it on my page, on my Facebook page. But this is all this area you're seeing right here. For miles and miles, fireballs of electricity were shooting up and down these poles with massive amounts of electricity and just an incredible sound. I'm going to show you just how far this went. We're going to continue to go. This is West Esplanade here in Kenner. And yeah, so about a block from my house down here on the corner is where I witnessed it from my house, which you can see a video. Now, there's a man that video recorded it from Smitty's Seafood, and I'm going to show you about where that is. You can probably see it. It's kind of dark, but you should be able to see it. But we're still going. All this area I've been driving, this whole area I've been driving, fireballs of electricity were shooting up and down these poles. Now, this has never happened before. You don't see this. This isn't normal. But for some reason, there was interaction with that over mile-wide UFO, and because of that, it caused some type, I don't think it was intentional, but because of that, it caused these fireballs and all this electricity to be shot up and down here. Now, we're coming up on the intersection here. There's the Shell station. Okay, you see that blue sign over there? That's Smitty's Seafood. That's the area. That's the area where the gentleman shot the video from. I don't know what's going on here, but right there, this is the corner of Williams Boulevard and West Esplanade. There's the Exxon station that you see in the video right there, where the fireballs are shooting across the sky. And that's That's the Popeyes. But like I said, this is Williams and West Esplanade. Now, what happened is electricity shot down through here on those poles right there, and it continued in front of that Exxon. You can see in the video clearly, when you look at the video, you'll see that Exxon station. And then they continued down Williams Boulevard going that way, right there. And I'm going to drive down that way and show you. But like I said, this is not normal activity. And about an hour before it happened, we saw an amber glow light up the backyard, beamed down, I guess, from that UFO. We didn't see it at the time, but of course you can see the video. You heard my story. It's basically getting picked up all over the world. This needs to be exposed, and we need disclosure. We need to know the truth of everything that's going on.
You know, it's interesting,
so we're going to make the
Charles.
left turn. There's Smitty's, where the video was recorded from. There is the Exxon station. Now, note in the video, there are fireballs that are shooting across these telephone poles, going all the way back there as far as your eye can see, back down Williams Boulevard right here. And some of these telephone poles were on fire. All these transformers were blown, every one of them, for miles.
But yet all the
and if
electricity
anybody had been
is working.
standing out by that Exxon station, if you watch the
bizarre.
video, they probably could have
Yeah,
gotten
fixed in 7
harmed
hours.
and killed by this electrical balls of lightning. You see somebody walking right here. Normally we always have somebody walking. Now note that was 2:50 in the morning, but there is usually a lot of people walking around. So these balls of fire down these electric poles continue down this way, continue going down this way. So it was just
Like over
miles
2
and
miles.
miles that this was occurring.
This isn't
So
normal.
I just wanted to get an idea of just how far these balls of electricity shot from pole to pole, transformer to transformer.
Looked like the end of the
Here in
world.
Kenner.
Maybe in Vegas.
And they continue
It
down the
did.
road there. This
was
is
crazy.
absolutely amazing.
And you know,
I mean, it was really reminiscent of something like War of the Worlds, right?
yeah. Yeah, in fact, that video, the original video, I'll put together the information in regards to the sound that came into the house a few days before this, and that's bizarre in itself too. I mean, I posted that like a few days before on Facebook that, you know, that the sound that I was hearing was exactly what I heard 2 years prior when this huge triangle alien UFO showed up over my house, which I have video of. It's documented on MUFON, and it was exactly 2 years to the date before that. That's what's so weird. And then a few days later, this happens. Now, I also want to mention we have video too, probably I think somewhere there, of the local station. I think it was WDSU Channel 6 in New Orleans, and they were reporting on this incident. And so what they were stating in the video is that they had lots of people that called in, and they saw multicolored lights in the sky over Kenner. They had many people calling in to tell them that. And when this first occurred, I was so shocked that I called 911. I thought it was either an alien invasion of the world was ending. It was crazy. Now, typically here in Kenner, we've got an awesome police department here. I love these guys. They do such a great job. And you can't say that about every police department. Of course, we love the men and women in blue and appreciate all that they do to protect us. But here in Kenner, we do have an exceptional department. And so I called 911 to find out what's going on. And when I did, it took at least 3 or 4 minutes to get through. And normally if you call 911 in this area, it's like that. You get right through. And the reason is because so many people were calling in, and they were reporting these glowing lights, multicolored glowing lights like I saw in the sky above Kenner. And they were scared. People were scared to death. And so they were calling the news stations. I know they called WDSU. And in that WDSU news report, you'll see they show telephone poles on fire. Somewhere you might have that. I know in that original video that I put together, that I think it was UFO Mania or some site, they have like 400,000 subscribers, and they took my video, which I have no problem with. They took my video off of Facebook and he put it on his site, and that video now has that YouTube video now has over 100,000 views on it. And the people that are posting on there are saying this is like something out of War of the Worlds or like an alien invasion. Nobody can believe it. And even people that have, we're talking about very intelligent people, knowledgeable in electricity, engineers, electrical people that work on poles. They're posting and saying that this is not normal. This doesn't happen. This isn't what's supposed to happen. Right. I mean, we're talking about balls of fire. These balls of fire that were going from transformer. They were blowing one transformer after another out, going from telephone to telephone pole for at least 2 miles. These balls of fire were like almost as big as a house.
It's
if you
really
would have been see like that Exxon station right there, if you would have been underneath that area pumping gas, who knows what would have happened. And if anybody had been walking underneath that area, it's very likely that an arc of electricity could have killed somebody. Thank God nobody was seriously injured or killed. It's a miracle. It really is, because we're talking about at least 2 miles of these fireballs burning up telephone poles and shooting fire and electricity down towards the ground. And it lit the whole sky up. It's phenomenal. And one other thing I want to mention too is, we might have that video too, that short clip. This occurred at IHOP, in this restaurant I've been to many times. This is the IHOP that's like just a few feet away from the corner of Williams Boulevard and West Esplanade. And that video is very dramatic, because there's a woman in there that's shooting this video, and she's screaming and yelling. I mean, this looks like something out of a Hollywood or a New Orleans filmed movie, because a lot of movies are filmed here now. And I mean, this woman's screaming, and she's obviously, you can hear the fear in her voice. She's scared for her life. And also in that other video, you can hear some people saying, "Oh my God," and screaming. I mean, those that were outside at 2:50 in the morning, that Thursday morning, that witnessed this, they were in fear for their life. They thought they were going to die. Yeah. And I felt the same way at one point. And I'll talk about that in a minute here when I go over the details, because I don't want to miss anything that happened. But
right.
At one point, I don't get scared easily. And at one point when I was outside, I ran inside. I thought I was going to either be zapped up into a UFO or I was going to be electrocuted and killed. It was very scary. It was really scary.
Some of these videos have been really difficult to download for some unknown reason, but let's look at some more of the videos you have posted on your Facebook page.
And I'm going to tell you about that in just a second here. This is my Facebook page. Today is December 27th. A few days ago on December 20th, you can see I posted here about this UFO. It was a triangle UFO that I reported to MUFON, and that was on December 20th. A couple years before, I heard the same sound that I heard the other night on December 20th, 2018 here, a humming sound, just a powerful sound like something was approaching the house.
Can you pause that just 1 second,
And
Jason?
I heard the same sound a couple years ago.
Okay, what I want to mention right quick is, because we want to talk, I just want to briefly mention this for those, because there's, of course, a lot of my followers that know, sometimes I go on FaceTime Live, and when we start talking about stuff like the Las Vegas shooting, divulging information about UFOs, aliens, quite often we'll get cut off on the feed. Something crazy will happen, it'll go blurry. We've had many cases where it's just weird. It's like the resolution all just it's just strange, the things that happen, and this happens so often. And I just want to mention that this image right here is coming a little bit blurry. So if you're not able to see this, this is still on my page. You can go later and see it. All these videos are still on my page. I've gotten, I think, like 800 new Facebook friends just in the last few days. And some people are posting and saying that, and this is crazy, because what happens is when you talk about sensitive stuff like this, UFOs, aliens, and this type of stuff, the government, people involved, we don't even know who the men in black are. We're talking about shadow government agencies. They don't want you to know the truth. They don't want you to know about this. They don't want disclosure to take place. And so what happens is they interfere with it. There's no doubt they interfere with this. We've seen this time and time again. And so what some of my new subscribers and friends are reporting is that, okay, I have all of my postings set to be shared publicly and to view. And so what's happening is some of these postings that I have, they see differently from what I do. When I go, I see the arrow there to be, shared, whatever. But some of them are seeing no arrow and they can't share my postings. And not only
I couldn't download them. There's a tool crazy. I use to download videos.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're having trouble too. And another thing that they say is that some of them can't see any of my December postings. This is bizarre. But this isn't coincidence. This is censorship. This is trying to cover up the truth and trying to stop disclosure and all this stuff. That's what's going on here. And you have been doing this stuff for a long time, and I can testify anybody knows how to run the system and do a wonderful presentation. We're on YouTube Live and all these other channels and things that you use, you're an expert at it. I mean, I feel like I'm on national news when I'm with you, because you're really good at it, Jason, and you know it's true, and everybody knows it's true. So when you have trouble, I mean, earlier before we even went live here, I saw this thing spinning where it's like your speed was slowed down or something.
Yeah,
and you're like, what's going on? And you don't have that trouble. You never have that trouble. So you
sometimes I do when I have more controversial subjects on. But let me share this with you for a moment, Charles. We've got a viewer with us on Periscope who says, I am FDNY. He's a firefighter. There was an explosion, and it can throw out plasma energy, hence the glow. But let's address that for a moment before we get back to your Facebook video there, because we're not denying that there was an explosion. Quite clearly there was. Let's go back to some more video from Action Kid 105.
Okay,
of
sure.
course,
this is interesting, yeah.
Yeah, he recounts...
Okay, guys, I don't know what is going on, but the entire sky is green and it is flashing.
You can hear in his voice that he's got a sense of urgency. It's something very unusual.
Right.
I mean, this is a long explosion to be going on. But the thing that's going to happen in this video, so that's the other thing, is that it just goes black like that after, you know, minutes of being on. So the next day, Action Kid 105 walked over to the power plant. Now, I really appreciate Action Kid 105. This is true citizen journalism. The guy's got a stabilizer for his cell phone or his whatever camera he's using here. And, you know, the news was not doing this. When I turned on the news and looked at the various news reports, a lot of them started off by saying, this is not an alien invasion. Right. It's interesting that that's how they started off. But Action Kid 105 walked over there and looks around to see what's going on. It takes him a little while to get to the Con Edison plant, so let's just flash forward here for a moment. Now, there have been occasions where power plants have had transformers explode in the past, and as you said, even in New York City, it frequently takes a fair amount of time for power to be restored when an explosion like that occurs, but that didn't seem to be the case here. There wasn't too much of a power outage, certainly no disruption. Yeah, well, the really bizarre thing is that as people can watch this video on Action Kid 105 on YouTube, but he walks all around this power plant, and after 2 minutes of explosions, there's no visible signs of any fire or any damage whatsoever.
That is bizarre. It really is.
Yeah.
And you know, we talked about this earlier, and what's so interesting about this is take note of the time. Okay, so what happened here in the which not everyone knows. A lot of people and some of the people, new subscribers, and some people that might not know from YouTube or whatever. Kenner, where I live, is basically just a few miles outside of New Orleans. It's a suburban area of New Orleans. Everybody, of course, is familiar with New York, where you are. But what's interesting about this too is, okay, so what took place here in my city was about 2:50 a.m. Thursday morning. Now, what took place in your city was just a few hours later at 9:15 your time in New York City. Now, what we talked about earlier, what's interesting about that is one of the reasons I don't believe this is any type of government weapon or experiment, anything like that, is because this took place at 9:15, which is prime time in your city. Now, your city's very active and alive with many people all times of night, but obviously at 9:15, there's more people outside and active. So if it was something involving that, I tend to believe that they would have done it more in an early morning hour. But if it was something more like alien UFO type involved, that they wanted people to see this, then 9:15 would be a perfect time in New York.
Right. Yeah. I'm trying to interact with the chat here, but the computer is so jammed up right now I can barely move anything on there. But I mean, you see Action Kid 105 is walking all around the plant, and I would expect that 2 minutes of explosions would have had, I mean, where are the fire trucks? Where is the repair equipment?
Where's any smoldering or any fire-looking damage, anything like that? This is so bizarre. It really is. And another thing I want to note too is I appreciate and love all of our news media here in New Orleans, nationally, everywhere. But the problem is, I'll tell you what goes on when it comes to stuff like this. They're being controlled and censored by government agencies, shadow government, stuff like that. I know this is a fact. All of those in the know this to be true. And so if they don't want something shown, they censor this stuff and they stop it from being shown. And if you notice, okay, say of course, New York is the largest city of America. This place is huge, this city. But if you notice on the news video footage of what occurred there, supposedly at this plant or whatever it is, when they shoot this news story, none of them show up-close footage of the results of what happened. It's always, and if they do show anything of it, it's like from 2 blocks away. They're like, okay, here's the plant where it occurred, and they'll be showing it from 2 blocks away. They won't show anything up close because they don't want you to see that there's no damage. Now, how do you explain this? This is bizarre. Yeah,
I agree. It really is difficult to understand what caused it, understand what's going on, why there's no damage. I've been in communication with Action Kid 105, and he gave me an interesting message where he said that the official story is changing from an exploded transformer to an electrical arc. So I don't really know what that means, but there's so many videos that we can be looking at here. Out of these, Charles, was there one in particular that you wanted me to show?
The one underneath there, yeah, the one to the left on the bottom, that's the video that I shot. Now, I'll talk about that in a second, but it's just weird. I mean, because after this occurred, at the end part of this was very scary, and there was about maybe 30 seconds to a minute that didn't appear, but quite often that happens when you're trying to film stuff that's very sensitive, UFOs and stuff like that. For some reason, unknown reason, that video, it's like it was edited almost. It'll get cut out. I remember years ago, I was on the side of.
If it does it again.
Go ahead and listen.
Watch this. Look at this. I don't know what's going on, but look, this is being filmed through my backyard. And when it first happened, wow, that's incredible. Now, it's continuing to flash. When it first happened, we could feel the energy from it. I mean, literally, it felt like a shock. Now, we assumed it was a transformer, something that blew, but not sure. I mean, it was the brightest I've ever seen anything light up the sky. There it goes again. You see it's continuing. There it goes again. Look at that. Wow, that's incredible. You hear that? What is that?
You know, one of our viewers right now in the chat, Charles, is telling us that he witnessed transformers blow in an earthquake 20 years ago. That might have been the Northridge quake, which I happened to be in California for. This person is saying it looked just like that, but the Kenner, Louisiana thing, it's a weird coincidence, and no fire damage is also a weird coincidence.
It's so similar to what happened in New York, and it goes on. One of the things that's interesting about it is usually when these transformers blow or something like that happens, it's a few seconds and it's over. But the event that happened here in Kenner lasted quite a few minutes, and so did the one in New York. Right. You know, and it was much more bright, much more dynamic. I mean, we're talking about stuff that's lighting up cities. This isn't normal. I mean, something that looks like an alien invasion of War of the Worlds or something like that. I mean, think back over the years. When does this happen? I think they had an incident that happened in Fort Worth. There's an incident in Fort Worth, Texas that happened a number of years ago, and they're saying that particular one was involved, you know, UFO activity. Alien UFO activity. But this just doesn't happen. It's not supposed to happen.
And let's briefly take a look for comparison. This is some footage I'm just pulling here from YouTube of a Con Ed transformer explosion that took place during Hurricane Sandy in 2012. Now, that's a bright, huge explosion.
But it's quick, yeah.
But it's also, I mean, we can see buildings in the background. It's not illuminating the whole entire sky. Right. And it sort of blows up and it goes away. It's not happening for 2 minutes.
See, that's a good point right there. It's quick. It flashes and it goes off. It flashes and it goes off. But what happened involving the incident here in Kenner, New York is constant. It's constant.
And it looks like it started a fire. So, okay, there's more explosions.
And it's brighter and more dynamic.
And more localized. It's very bright in this area here. It's also, we got to keep in mind, in 2012, the camera that the person is using to record this may have been a cell phone, but more likely was a standalone video camera. I don't think HD and certainly not 4K video cameras in cell phones were as prominent in 2012 as they are today. So some of that flash could be due to overexposure. We don't know what type of camera was used to record that, but it's very interesting to see, Charles, that didn't seem to illuminate the entire sky in the way these most recent explosions did. Now, Charles, we're almost out of time here, so I think we're going to have to reconvene in the future to continue to examine this. We have a lot of people viewing right now. I definitely want to remind all of our viewers, we have over 1,000 on YouTube alone, that people who want to correspond with you, if they want to share information, if they want to tell you that something we've said is incorrect, or if they've got some scientific hypothesis, evidence, experience that would tell them what would cause these types of phenomena. We're interested in hearing it. People can follow Charles on Twitter at _Charles Walton _, and he's got the link to his Facebook page right there. Everybody can follow Charles on Facebook. Charles, you don't have a Patreon site, do you?
No, I think I signed up. I'm not sure what I did with it, but most of my followers right now on, of course, Facebook. But yeah, I mean, that incident that occurred the other night here in Kenner, I mean, it was so intense. When this thing came down, you had these rotating, very bright, glowing lights, very similar to what happened in Phoenix. The wind picked up. There was this very deep humming and vibrating sound. And it was so intense. I mean, you could literally feel the electricity of it and the energy of it going through the body. Even the hair stood up. And at one point, when I was outside, I literally felt like I was going to be abducted, like the Travis Walton incident. And I mean, I investigate and do this stuff often. I don't get scared easily, but I ran inside for fear of my life. And if it wasn't for that, I would have had some more footage, and some of it was missing. But I'm telling you, what I witnessed was not something from this world. And what you see in that video, you know, that incredible video that occurred here with the electric poles and all that, is just amazing. You know?
It is. I mean, it's certainly unlike anything I've ever seen before.
Do you have, Jason, do you have that video of the
Pancake House?
Yeah, the IHOP. Or,
I was looking for that. I couldn't. That was one of the ones that I couldn't download. But
now, if you don't have that, you can find that. I think that's anyway. If you go to my Facebook page, there's a video. There you have to scroll down a ways, but there's a video on there that it's on YouTube. I think it's UFO Mania. I think is hosting it, and that video has over 100,000 views now. I just want to mention that in that video, they show these telephone poles on fire. And also in that video, WDSU News, in that video, they talk about how the people were calling in, lots of people were calling into the station saying that they saw these glowing multicolored lights in the sky over Kenner. I just wanted to mention that because that kind of verifies, you know, what I saw.
Wow. Yeah, I'm just having such a tough time. UFO Mania. Maybe we'll take a look at that. I was trying to download all these videos because you never know when these things might disappear. But that was bizarre too. People in the Pancake House experiencing something very similar to what was going on outside the Exxon station.
That's another really good video too. That you can see that in that video too. That's another really good one. It's in that particular video, and that one also can be found in that one section I show you with the 5 videos. It can be, I think it's at the top left in that video section on my Facebook page. You can find that one there because that one also shows the IHOP, how the people that woman goes hysterical in the IHOP. That one.
I'm having such a tough time getting anywhere with this right now. It's so.
Yeah, I know it's a lot of stuff. It's crazy. Did you want to show, because we kind of talked, you want to show that one video from what happened in Kenner here once again?
Sure, we can do that for sure.
Because that's the most dramatic one for those that haven't seen it.
Yeah, and that one I was able to successfully download, so let's take a look at that. Well, let's listen to it because I think people can hear the humming.
Right.
I agree, it's crazy, and then everything goes dark.
And it goes for like 2 miles of this. These things shooting across the wires, burning telephone poles up, blowing out transformers, and it's like 2 miles all the way from West Esplanade and Power to Williams Boulevard, and from Williams Boulevard to Veterans. I mean, that is nothing like I've ever witnessed before. That's so bizarre.
It really is bizarre. We're going to keep our eyes open for more information about this, Charles. I want to thank you for joining us. I want to wish you a happy new year. I want to remind people who are watching that they can see all these shows on the Jason Goodman channel on YouTube. They can also see them on Crowdsource The Truth 2 on YouTube. That's the backup channel. And of course, people can use Super Chat on there if they'd like to. And Crowdsource The Truth is a community-sponsored resource. I hope that people will go to patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth and sponsor the show. So Charles, how can people support your work now that you're no longer on YouTube, where I know you had an advertising-based YouTube channel that was earning you money? If people are interested in supporting you, is there any way to do that right now?
Yeah, I did. I think I sent you that one link to that one site. But you know, the thing is, of course, when YouTube went down, that cut out all those resources. And my main objective is to get the truth out there, to expose the truth. I want disclosure to take place. That's so important to me. I have that, but I mean, since I have such wonderful friends on Facebook, they've been so supportive. Love all of you out there. Our objective is, you know, we always say we're taking back the world. That's what we're doing. We said that, and so, you know, but there is a PayPal link. Let's see, it's www.paypal.me/Charles Walton Rocks. I don't want anybody to feel obligated to anything. I've had some friends that have sent some. That's obviously not a solid source of income. You know, it's just for those that can help. It's a wonderful thing, but I don't want to feel anybody feel obligated. But it's not about that. I'm still doing some paralegal work. I'm surviving. You know, I'll be okay. But it is there. You know, if you feel like you want to do something to support what I do.
There you go.
Exactly.
Yeah. So people can get that from your Facebook page,
right.
PayPal.me/Charles Walton Rocks. Excellent. Well, Charles, thank you so much for sharing your experience and your knowledge. This is a fascinating topic that, you know, certainly an alien invasion would be something of great interest to everybody on Earth. And Charles, I want to wish you a very happy 2019. Stay safe tonight. Wonderful to see you, my friend. Thanks for all that insight. We'll talk to you soon.
Same thing to you. Happy New Year to you and everybody out there. Love and peace. And let's all work together towards getting disclosure and finding out the truth. And I really appreciate what you did having me on today, and hope we'll do it again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Charles. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Thanks for a great 2018. I'll see everybody next year.
2019 is going to be awesome and better than ever.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody.
All right.